The roar of dozens of motorcycles echoed across the parking lot outside a roadside diner in rural Montana, but the loudest sound wasn't the engines, it was the laughter. A group of hardened bikers couldn't stop mocking a teenage girl who had just climbed off an old, weathered motorcycle wearing an oversized leather jacket that looked far too big for her. The jacket was faded, the sleeves were worn, and its age showed in every crack of the leather. To them, she looked like a child pretending to belong in a world she could never understand. But only seconds later, one biker noticed an old embroidered patch stitched onto the back of her jacket. His smile disappeared instantly. One by one, every voice fell silent as the meaning of that patch spread through the crowd. In that unforgettable moment, the laughter turned into respect, regret, and quiet admiration. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is stronger than judgment and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue bringing you inspiring true-to-life stories. The girl's name was Grace. She was only 16 years old and lived with her grandmother, Margaret, in a small town outside Billings, Montana. Life had never been easy for Grace. Her parents had died in a highway accident when she was just 7 years old, leaving her grandmother to raise her with very little money. Margaret worked long hours sewing clothes for neighbors while Grace spent afternoons helping around the house, studying hard, and repairing an old motorcycle that had once belonged to her late father, Nathan. That motorcycle wasn't valuable in terms of money, but to Grace it carried memories, love, and promises that could never be replaced. Every Sunday evening, Margaret would tell stories about Nathan. She described him as a fearless rider with a gentle heart who believed that strength was measured by compassion instead of muscles. Nathan had belonged to a respected motorcycle club years before he became a father. Although he eventually left club life to focus on family, he never abandoned the values of loyalty, honesty, and protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. Before his death, he carefully folded his favorite leather jacket and placed it inside an old wooden chest, telling Margaret that one day Grace would understand why it mattered. When Grace turned 16, her grandmother finally opened that chest. Inside rested the heavy leather jacket, still carrying the faint smell of engine oil and pine forests. On the back was a weathered patch with the words Guardians of Mercy, an old motorcycle club known throughout several western states not for violence, but for escorting military funerals, protecting abused children during court appearances, and raising money for families devastated by tragedy. The club had quietly disappeared years earlier after many members retired or passed away, making the patch almost legendary among older riders. Grace didn't wear the jacket because she wanted attention, she wore it because it made her feel close to the father she barely remembered. Every stitch reminded her that even though he was gone, his values could still guide her through life. One afternoon, Margaret became seriously ill and needed expensive medication that insurance would not fully cover. Grace refused to watch her grandmother suffer. She picked up extra work delivering groceries and repairing small engines, saving every dollar she could. On one delivery, she had to travel across a scenic highway where dozens of motorcycle clubs had gathered for a large charity ride. She stopped at the roadside diner to rest, unaware that she was about to become the center of unwanted attention. As Grace removed her helmet, several bikers glanced toward her oversized jacket and old motorcycle. Some smirked, others whispered that she was trying too hard to look tough. A few laughed openly, assuming she had bought the jacket from a thrift store without understanding what